So this is a video about layouts in .NET Core MVC. So let's start with a problem. So I have a problem. I have a web application and it has a lot of pages and I want them all to have a similar layout. For instance, all of them having a menu section. Now, some of these sections could depend on the page. So let's take a look at an example here. Here we have a header, probably pretty static, and a footer, maybe also fairly static, and the menu could depend on the page I'm on. Also, this one definitely depends on the page because it's the basic content of the page. Okay. Also, I want it to be easy to rearrange the sections. For instance, moving the menu to the right instead of the left. I don't want to have to change all the pages to do that. Okay. So enter layouts. Layouts seems almost to be designed to solve this problem. So the purpose is to create a template. And this template can, for instance, define the menu that I discussed earlier. So let's see how this looks what this looks like in Visual Studio. Okay, so I have created a standard MVC application. It has an index page. I was given that for free. It has a controller. I created 2 more actions to be able to show 2 other views, which I also created over here. We're not going to take a look at those right now. What we're going to take a look at is what the pages look like. So we're going to start this up. Right. So you see, here's the contents from the index page. But the green stuff, the green color is not defined in the index page. This is not defined in the index page. And this is not defined in the index page. So the question is, where does that come from? Let's take a look at this another page here. Privacy policy. Okay, see, this is the same thing. It still has the index. It still has the menu. Also, let's take a look at the page 2. Same thing. It also has these sections that are apparently defined somewhere else. And the answer to where they're defined is they're defined in this file called _layout. Now, here we have the layout page. So you can see that defines header. It's using something called Bootstrap. All of these classes are Bootstrap classes. You can see the reference up here. So I'm not going to go deeper into that. But all of this creates the menu I showed you. And this creates the footer. And down here, we have the actual contents of the index file or the privacy file or page 2. And they arrive because this line is there. So what happens is the rendering engine wants to render index.chtml. So it kind of executes this and evaluates this. It gives you something HTML-like probably. And if I have more script tags down here, they would run also. And then it decides whether this page wants to use a layout or not. And since the answer to that is yes, we'll get back to how it decides that. It'll start processing the layout page instead. So now the layout page generates the header, and then at some point it runs into this one. And then it takes the content from this and renders to the output. And then it continues rendering the rest, the footer, and these scripts that we'll get back to later. Okay, so, and it does that for all 3 pages. That's why they all have the same layout. Okay, so if I have a page I don't want a layout on, I can just set layout to null. So if I go to my index page, layout equals null, it's not going to have a layout. See, no layout, but the other pages do still have a layout. See? So let's undo that. Okay, so let's go back to our recipe here. So the default layout is in underscore layout.cshtml. We'll get back to later how we can create our own layout. And we can specify that the page does not want a layout at all. Okay, now we had the second problem, that some of the sections are dependent on the page. Now I could just let everything dependent on the page be generated in the body, but that would not really solve the problem of easily being able to rearrange sections. So enter the concept of sections. So a section is defined in a page like this, and it's specified in the layout that you want to render the section. Like you say, render body. Now you type render section. So let's say I have a section called overview. I should put this in my page and then specify in the layout that it should be rendered. Okay, so I should put the section inside the page. Now it's easy to put this is the wrong place. I'm probably going to do that at some point. It's also easy to forget how to type this, but then you just find an example somewhere, right here. This is the overview of the index page. Yes, and in the layout, I should render this. So I'm going to render this. So this is a row. This is CSS row, and inside we have one column. I'm going to make another column, and I want this one to be the overview to the left. And let's give it another color. Instead of that ugly color, let's give it an even uglier color, if possible. So instead of render body, I want to render section. And I need to give it the name of the section. Yes. Misspell it, you say? No. This is correct. Okay. So I'm going to try and run this now. Hey, it says, like you can see how the rendering is going. The guy in control is the layout. The layout wants to render the overview, but it cannot find it here. So this is what happens if you misspell the section or if you forget to make it. So of course I need the W instead. And now it'll work. See? And the page is different. The color is different. And this is the section page. The body of this is the body of the page. So, okay, all is well. Now, how about my page 2? Let's run it again. I should never have stopped it. I want to see what page 2 does. It blows up. God damn. Yes, and see again, same dark problem. Cannot find overview in page 2. So I need to create this in all my pages that are using this layout. Unless I say that this is, you don't have to do this. This is not required. See, there's an overload here that takes a Boolean required. So if I write false, so default is true. If I don't specify it, it's true. Then it doesn't have to be there in the page. So there, page 2. So it accepts that it's not there. So whether you should use false or true on required depends on really what you want. If you want to make sure that everybody implementing a new page using your layout remembers this, and in this situation, it's probably a good idea to put it there because otherwise it looks silly. If you want to make sure that they remember to put it in the page, then you specify required. Otherwise, you can specify required false. Okay. Anyway, if in page 2 I put something else, this is the overview of page 2. Then that would be displayed in page 2 instead. Okay. So not all pages want to display these layouts. It might be that when I'm using the admin pages of my application, I want something completely different shown. So here I have the admin page. So it has a different section called admin info. And potentially more sections. And I want this one to use a different layout. So how can I make a different layout? So what I did was I simply took a copy of this one and put it here. This is the admin layout. See, it has render section admin info. It's put differently. And yeah, the rest is the same, but you could change things in here. No, I think actually something is not one of the menu items is gone, I think. Yeah, so you can have a completely different layout in here. Different colors, different sections, different everything. And what you do in your page is you simply say layout equals admin layout. And I would like to, at this point, show you how the rendering engine decides which layout to use. So you saw that if I did not want to use a layout at all, I should write layout equals null. Okay. So, but if I don't write that, where does it get the default layout from? You see, every view, when rendering a view, the rendering engine always starts out by running this file, _view start. And you can see that's what sets the layout. It sets the layout to _layout. That's why _layout is the default. If you want the default to be called something else, you can change this. And if you don't want a default, you can say layout equals null or just delete this line. Anyway, that's where the default layout comes from. So it runs this first, specifies a layout. If I don't want a layout, then I can override that, saying layout equals null in here, or in admin page, I can do this. So let's see how the admin page works. /home admin page. Okay, so see, this one comes from the section admin info, and the large text comes from this one. It comes from there. And even though this is specified before this in the layout, this one comes first. So that's important. So this is actually in a way executed before the layout. You can make tests, debugging or remembering datetime.now or something. You can see in which sequence this happens, and so I know that all of this, in a way, all of this page is evaluated first, and then the layout is run, and then things are inserted as specified by the layout. Anyway, let's go back to here. Let's go back to here. Okay, so we're going to try one more thing. We have created a new layout, admin layout, and specified the layout in the page. Default layout can be changed here, but there's one thing about the sections. If I put a section in a page and I forget to put it in the layout, all hell breaks loose. So I have two more sections in my admin page. Let's see what happens if I try to render the admin page again. See, so what does it say? The follow sections have been defined but have not been rendered by the page. Okay, so there are two sections. Following section, these sections, they're defined, but they're not rendered by this one. So they're not used. So why does it even care? Well, but I guess they made it in the sense that the rendering engine sees the two sections and it sees that they're unused. It's almost like a method that no one uses, except this one gets even grumpier. It says I'm not going to render this page at all because someone fucked up probably. What you can do is you can say that, oh, I'm not going to use this section. I know that it's in some of my pages, but me as a layout, I don't like this section. I'm going to use it. So, but you have to specify that specifically. I'm not going to use it. So if a page's layout does not use render section, it must use ignore section. One of them. For each section, it must either use render section or ignore section. And by the way, I didn't show you, but if you try to render a section twice, it's only going to be rendered once. So, but this is no good. So either in my layout, I must either render them. We can just do that underneath, render section. Sellers, was that the name of it? Sellers, yes. And I'm not gonna spelling is hard. Ignore section. I could even ignore the body, as you saw. Bias. Ignore section bias. Ignore section. Something's wrong here. Hang on. Okay, that's a common trap. If you look at render section here, it says return value is Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.html.html string. Whereas in this one, the return value is void. Now, what this means in a view or in a layout is take the return value of the expression to the right of this ampersand and render it to the output. So it says take this value and render to the output stream. Now you cannot say you cannot do that with the void function. If this one doesn't return anything, you cannot render what it returns. Okay, so what you need to do instead is do this. There. Because this means render to the output stream. This means call this method, right? So let's see. The admin page. There you go. A list of all sellers. Okay. And the admin info and the body, the contents. Yes, I think that was about it. Let's see if I forgot something. No, I think not. So thank you for watching this video.